Using my camera to see how cool my hair is looking. Hold on. Right. Evening, everyone. I think we've now clarified what the assignment is about and how we're going to approach it and how the team is managed and how we want the presentation. So that's fantastic. So let's look at the assignment. So first of all, this is the allocation. Now you'll see 8 to 10 marks and 11 to 15 marks and so forth. So the application carries a lot more. One of the things I did also see in terms of the first submission is that some people for some questions gave me zero theory. It is the balance between the theory and the application, with the application obviously being a little bit more. That is what gets you your 90% pluses, guys. So be careful about having a proper theory that underpins your discussion. And the other thing is, please figure out how you're going to integrate your theory and application. You know, the theory essentially comes to life through the application. So the way you link those is important. And yeah, I mean, there are other things like sequencing and a bit of editing that I was concerned about. Okay, let me switch my face off. Right, let's look at this. So the theory, you can see the rubric. This rubric applies to every single aspect of the first group of questions. So your group report, there's 75 marks, and the presentation, 25 marks. It's on Murray and Roberts. Yeah, we know that Murray and Roberts have had a checkered past, including the fact that at some point they were charged with collusion along with the other big four construction companies, price fixing, where contract rigging took place, etc. And they've not survived. And one of their challenges is the fact that the Chinese have come into South Africa and are building and constructing at a fraction of the cost that Murray and Roberts can. So they are at a strange juncture in their history. And to be honest with you guys, this is as South African as I don't know, millipop. You know, that's what we see and how we associate South Africa with Murray and Roberts. They're part of our lexicon, they're part of our lives, etc. So let's start with this one. Okay. The idea of job security, survival, and future prospects. What we're looking at here, process theories of motivation. Yeah, someone sent me this picture. Someone sent me this picture and asked which theories. It's the process theories, guys. So you have to go and look for the process theories. If you can find the process theories, if somebody could tell us that, we can capture the page numbers as well, and share it, guys. Just remember to share it, and I'll also mention it in the discussion. So let's look where to find these. Right. So essentially, I need to spend a little bit of time finding this. Hold on. Okay. So the first one, guys, would be Learning Unit 5, and you're looking for answers on 426 to 431. Learning Unit 5, 426 to 431. So we were going to do Learning Unit 5 tonight. So let me just open. Oh, I closed it. Sorry. Hold on. Yeah. So Learning Unit 5, you need to find the process theories. If you want, you can go Control F, process. Should find it fairly quickly. Process theories. Okay. Process perspectives on motivation. So in terms of that, the one thing we know about the content theories is that the content theories view motivation as something that's instinctive, is something that essentially happens automatically. The idea of being hungry and motivated to eat. The process theories argue that people are more cool, calm, and collected in deciding whether they're going to be motivated. So it is a suggestion that instead of motivation being something instinctive, people will go through a series of questions and answers and assessments in deciding whether they're going to be motivated or not. So when we look at the first one, the expectancy theory, I must admit, from an organizational perspective, is really very good because what it does, it gives us a set of actions that people go through in deciding whether they are going to be motivated or not. So essentially, and I'm going to just create paint here because I don't like their model. I prefer my own interpretation of it. So what it says is that we have certain answers to arrive at in order to be motivated. So the first one is the idea that we have expectancy. So when we talk about expectancy, we talk about the fact that if we put in effort, we will be able to perform. So the first question we ask ourselves, if I put in effort, I should be able to perform. Oh my goodness me. Yeah, I'm writing with the mouse. If I put in, okay, sorry guys. Let me try this again. If I put in effort, will I be able to perform? So that EFF is not as in the political party. It is effort. If I put in effort, will I be able to perform? Performance. If I perform, what are the likely outcomes of the performance? What are the likely results of the performance? And it could be bonuses, avoiding getting fired, etc. And essentially, how attractive are those outcomes? Or how attractive are they to avoid? Is there an automatic link between effort and performance? Is there an automatic link that if I put in effort, I expect to perform? Is there a clear link between effort and performance? Who had subjects at school that no matter what they did, they couldn't pass or they couldn't succeed in it? And often it's math. Who hated math and struggled with math? Okay, at least one honest person, two honest people. Okay, okay, a good few honest people. Thank you for that. I think sometimes we get to a point in mathematics, guys, where we say to ourselves, it doesn't matter how hard I work, I am not going to be able to perform. Sometimes, and I found this quite strange because I was so strong at accountancy. When we look at our degrees, people convince themselves they can't do accountancy. People convince themselves they can't that they can't do economics. Who struggled with accountancy in their undergrad? This is impressive that no one did. Okay. The math thing is real. I think people will get to a point where they believe no matter how much effort I put in, I'm not going to be able to perform. The problem with effort is that there are certain almost ground rules to ensure that you start creating a positive expectation between effort and performance. The first one is the idea of successful previous experiences. I'm not going to try and type that. If you've had past experiences that were successful, you will believe that in future you will be successful. We see it when people play computer games. People will get to a point or a boss in a game that they believe they can't get past, and they then think, well, it's the end. And then one of their friends gets past this particular boss, and then everyone gets past because there's already a belief that past experience and past successes will breed future successes. The second one is self-efficacy. Now, you can search self-efficacy. It's Bandura's theory. Self-efficacy essentially means there's a belief in your own abilities. If you have a belief in your own abilities, you know that if I put in effort, I will be able to perform. Give me something that you are very good at work, that you believe if you put in effort, you'll perform. I think there are a couple of things, guys. And that is the expectancy. So if I put in effort, I expect to perform. If I perform, what are the outcomes? What are the outcomes? Is it a bonus? Is it an increase? Is it avoiding getting fired? Is it avoiding getting disciplined? So when we think of effort and performance, yeah, promotion, for some people, promotions are so important, and that's a positive outcome. So in terms of our effort and performance, the second part of it is, if I perform, what is the likelihood of 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 that performance resulting in this particular outcome? And when we look at the slides, it is what we refer to as this kind of oh, they don't have it here. Why don't they have it? It is contingency. That the behavior is contingent upon achieving those specific outcomes. Where is that? Okay. So it's contingent. So the second one is this contingency. If I perform, will I actually achieve those outcomes? Who's ever been in a position where parents have promised them things if they did and achieved certain things but didn't follow through on it? I think everyone gets it. And sometimes it happens in sometimes it happens in organizations. Who's had organizations lie to them where he's still waiting for your chicken? Yeah. I think people work for organizations that what happens is they get promised certain things, they deliver in terms of certain promises, and then the reality is that they don't receive the things that were promised. So it's the moment that happens in future, when bosses make promise, you remove that belief that there's this link in terms of your performance to outcome expectancy. From there, guys, it is the outcomes. And we normally talk about balance. And in terms of the balance, we talk about how valuable are those things. For some people, bonuses and things like that are incredibly valuable. For other people who have money, time away as a reward would be far more valuable. So the nice thing about this theory, it tells us, and it tells managers, if you want to motivate an employee, these are the connects that you have to promote. I absolutely love this theory, guys. Okay, so you can see the assumptions. First of all, it is a combination of the individual and then also the environment. And then essentially, we take decisions on whether we're going to be motivated or not. People have different needs. Some people will want the promotion, other people would want time away from work. I love that, I like the chicken. And then obviously we make our plans and our choices based on those outcomes. If we have a desirable outcome, we will work harder. So you can see the effort to performance expectancy, performance to outcome, and then essentially, are those rewards what we want? Not everyone wants more money. Yeah, I'm not going to ask this question. I was going to ask who doesn't need more money, but I won't ask that. Okay. So in terms of measuring, guys, the idea of whether we value that outcome, it's called balance. So it's how appealing a particular outcome is to you. And then just, I think the reality is you need tick boxes between each of those effort to performance, performance to outcome, and the balance of the outcomes. Love this theory. I mean, managers just need to learn about their employees and understand their employees so they can create those positive connects. The second one is Porter and Laura. Laura, it really just takes it a step further. The expectancy theory, it takes it a bit further, and that it contextualizes it more in an organization. And then essentially, that, when you have high performing workers, when you've ticked those boxes, they will become more motivated by their own performance. So you create the feeling that they've mastered their job. You have a clear connect where if they achieve certain objectives, they receive those outcomes, and you make sure that those outcomes are things they value. Okay, it looks a bit like that. So the equity theory is the third one in this, guys. The equity theory essentially says that people constantly look at others in terms of what other people put into their job and what they get out of their job. So the basis of the equity theory is this, right? We look at other people, so if this is ourselves, oh gosh, sorry, there was a slight motorcycle accident in both these individuals' lives. So we look at ourselves, and we look at ourselves in terms of the effort we put in and what we achieve as a result of that effort, what we get, the outcomes. We will then compare ourselves to other people. And the focus all the time is that we want fairness. So if I put in, I have a PhD, I do slides, I do this, and this, and if I compare them to a colleague, I would hope that somebody with the same qualification would work as hard as I do, and that would be equity. The problem comes in when I believe I put in more effort than another person, and they essentially get the same or get more, then you have this inequity thing. So it's also the basis, and guys, and who here is in HR? And it's the basis of grading systems. Okay, a couple of people. It's the basis of grading systems because you get the different Peromnes and Patterson and Hay. I don't know if any of those. Yeah, I know your surname is Patterson, Althea. Part of your surname. Anyone heard of these? Patterson, Peromnes, Hay, the task evaluation system. Obviously, non-Pemolelo, you would do that, yeah, because that's what you do for a living. Okay, so it's about the balance and it's about fairness. And you can see we compare how much we put in and how much we get for our hard work with other people. And if there's inequity, there's a lot of stuff. If I believe I get more than another person who works harder, this I don't believe whatsoever. But the theory says that I will go for a salary increase or I will work harder. If somebody else earns more for doing the same thing as I do, I will approach the manager and ask for an increase. The equity theory. Okay. The last one is the goal setting theory. And the essence of the goal setting theory is that when we have goals that we've committed ourselves to, we will work harder. So essentially, you want to make sure that you have some sort of mutually agreed goals, that those goals are specific, that those goals challenge an individual, and essentially you would then want the commitment and the acceptance. And people who have something to achieve will work hard towards achieving that. Okay, so the essence of the goal setting theory. Yeah. You can read the rest here. So it's slide 25 back to, oh my gosh, process. So 13 to 25. 13 to 25. Okay, and just remember, guys, yeah, how would we use those process theories to create an environment that will allow employees to stay motivated during this time of uncertainty? Right. The second one is the systems theory. So, in terms of the systems theory, you guys already know this one. The systems theory, we are looking at Learning Unit 4, pages 45 to 46. Do I need to discuss that again? Systems theory, pages 45 to 46. Let me just find my slides. Where is it? Oh, my goodness me. Uh, And then the systems theory, Control F, SYSTMS. Right. Yeah. So there was a bit of a discussion on the previous one, and you can see the essence of the systems theory. Let me just, yeah, is that one? Let me just make sure on the question quickly. System using the system. Okay. Yeah. So essentially, very similar to the previous question. So we have to talk about the initial introduction of the systems theory, and then we need to spend a bit of time on this one. So the inputs, and then what the transformation is in terms of Murray and Roberts, and then the outputs that they have. Okay. And then the third question is, okay, political behaviors. Okay. Yeah, so we often talk about power and politics. In terms of political behaviors, oh my gosh, where am I here? We're looking at Learning Unit 6. You're looking at pages 502 to 504. Learning Unit 6, pages 502 to 504. Let me quickly open my slides. Okay. Not the biggest fan of political behavior in organizations, guys. Yeah, it's right towards the end of this learning unit. Right, so we're looking at slides 37, 38, 39, 40, and 41. Let me have a glance at the question again. Okay, so discuss potential political behaviors and then mechanisms to counter those. So the mechanisms will be 41, the potential political behaviors. Yeah, I think start by defining what we know of. You can absolutely know. Of course, it's not going to be plagiarism. You'll be plagiarizing yourself, Valencia. I must admit, I don't know. That is not my question I put in here. I don't know who changed that a little bit. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay. So the political behaviors, I think here you can see what political behaviors mean. It's essentially where we use our connects, where we use our maneuvers in order to advantage ourselves. It is not ethical. I don't believe it's ethical whatsoever, but it's the way we position ourselves. It's the way we influence and manipulate situations and people in order for us to, first of all, get ahead and have access to resources that other people don't. Not a fan of this stuff whatsoever. Unfortunately, you'll see political behaviors in organizations all the time. We'll spend a bit more time talking about these political behaviors when we get to this learning unit, guys. So the common political behaviors, I mean, I hate every single one of this one. The first one is that inducement. So if you support me in my budget request, I will make sure that you get a nice little bonus at the end of the year. We see a lot of inducement in corruption. The second one, persuasion. So essentially, we manipulate facts. We use the positive side of the decision, but we don't share the negative side of what we're planning to do. We see it in Trump all the time, manipulating facts to paint this picture of a successful war, when in reality it's the opposite. This one is creation of obligation. These people live their lives in terms of balance sheets. I will do you a favor now, but you will owe me something in the future. And then coercion is literally threatening and bullying people into doing what you expect from them. While we have a second, Anyone ever encounter any of these in the organization that you're in? Does anyone here on the call play political games? Who's encountered this kind of behavior where they work? Do you want to share with us, Pico? Or is it a bit risky to share? Okay, I think Pico is struggling to unmute himself. Okay, so the other one is impression management, guys. Essentially, impression management is where you wear the right clothes, you smell the right way, you say the right words, you wear the right mask, and you create this impression that you are this hotshot person, when in reality, you do not know what you're doing, but you're at the right meetings, you go to the right sports matches, you stay after work and you make sure that you join a boss's group. Yeah, Nampumalelo, this is not what I do. Okay. When you get to me, what you see is what you get. There's no impression management here whatsoever. I absolutely hate this. These people are artificial, they are inauthentic, and they are dodgy as hell. It's only, oh dear Lord, we've got a member of parliament amongst us. Yeah, and just remember why we have impression management. It's all about feathering our own nests, guys. My favorite is Trump's impression management. The impression he's trying to give is how they're in charge of the war. Um, yeah, absolutely. And will steal other people's successes as their own. Will steal other people's successes as their own. Guys, yeah, I'm not a big fan of that stuff. In terms of managing political behavior, I think the first one is that be aware that people will think you are playing political games. People start getting suspicious very quickly when you start doing and asking and behaving in a certain way. The second one is just hand over responsibility and autonomy to employees so that, at least they feel that they can actually make a difference. Stay away from using power, any form of power, including the kind of threats that we see people use. And then if there are issues that are causing conflict, go and deal with it, and deal with it in a transparent way, and then avoid covert activities. Now, covert activities are these in the passage meetings we often see whenever the paw hits the fan with any government corruption. There is always a WhatsApp group. There are always WhatsApp messages. There are always emails that essentially will show the covert behavior, the under the cover, behind the door behaviors. And then in terms of performance appraisals, have transparent performance appraisals, have people understand what criteria we use in the performance appraisal, base the performance appraisal on actual achievements, not on things like attitude and nonsense like that, and also allow people to performance rate themselves. So that you've got the slides there, and that is, oh my goodness me, still finding it. Oh, for Pete's sake. That is 1.3. If you've done this well, you would give me a single introduction and a single conclusion. Please don't give me an introduction and conclusion for each of the questions. Please make sure that as a group you have transition sentences between the different things. Please make sure that people use the same tone and style, that it looks like a single report. And then, yeah, do your presentation. When is this due, guys? Again, the reminder, and I'm going to put it on the recording. Please make sure that only the group leader uploads the report and uploads the recording. Everyone including the group leader, will upload their own peer review forms. but only the group leaders. 4th of May, that's 14 days' time and 2 days before my birthday. So you guys will wait for the answer, for the marking. Any questions, any comments?